like a baby tonight.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I've actually been, ever since I got the ball rolling on it, I've been, how you have that voice in your head when you know you want to do something and you need to do it and you should do it. And it's just like that voice is just telling you, like, come on, man, what are you doing? What are you doing, dude?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you're not following through, even though there's no actual objection. There's no reason not to. You're not pulling the trigger.
You get that itch.
Yeah, man.
And it's getting bigger and bigger.
And you gotta eventually, it feels like the more you push that off, the more you feed that weakness, it just like gets bigger and it becomes like more of an obstacle. It's not even really there. You just kind of gotta do it.
How long have you been having that itch for?
Oh, wow, man. Too long. I don't know, man. It's been like 6+ months. I just kind of need to get it done. But yeah, man. So tell me about your background. I mean, this is kind of good too because we're not. We're friends, but we don't really know each other for a long time. So yeah. Tell me about.
So I'm from Seattle originally. My mom's from Boston. My dad's Turkish.
Oh, really? I wouldn't have guessed that at all.
Yeah. So I'm half Turkish. She's like French and German, but they met in Turkey. My dad was a customs officer. She was in the Air Force, and so she was stationed in Turkey. They met, had me in Seattle. There's a pretty big military presence. We have a shipyard.
Naval base.
We fill submarines and ships. And long story short, I grew up there most of my life. I went to college at the University of Washington, which is in Seattle. It's a big school. It's like 50,000 students. It's in the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a big state
university. I studied electrical engineering, so that was cool. But I quickly realized that like engineering was like kind of boring. It's too nerdy. It's too dry.
You weren't trying to pursue it.
And like the people that I like interacted with were like there was a lot of Asians and a lot of dudes. And for me, I was like, fuck, man, like I wanted to have a little bit more spice in my life.
It's funny that you say that though, because it's like, that seems to be a trend, no?
The more technical you get, whatever business is, like that's just what you end up running into.
Dude. Yeah, the SJWs are going to kill us after this goes live, but I'm not allowed to point this out. But it does seem to be a trend, man. And it's funny, too, because that same trend exists across Scandinavia. It's funny. The more equal rights your society has, the bigger that divide becomes, actually. Like in Sweden and Scandinavia, they have the biggest differentiation between male and female interests. Like men are way more engineers than women. And then in India, though, like where in the Middle East and stuff, where the social rights aren't as like equal for the genders, that gap shrinks.
That's right. There's like a lot more female.
There's a lot more female engineers that are Indian and like in those less socially progressive places. So it's a counterintuitive like trend almost. It's like it's a weird one. But anyway, so you there wasn't enough girls for you in engineering, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like kind of a dry college experience. I mean, I was living at home and going to school. To be honest, it took me a while to sort of become aware and like actually have the desire and understanding of like what I really wanted in life. Mm-hmm. So I consider myself a little bit of a late bloomer. I was always book smart. I could kind of figure shit out, but I was like not.
But you were doing what you were supposed to do, though. It's like
exactly.
Exactly.
I was doing what Dad said.
It seemed like it was a good path. It seemed like you were doing all the right things.
And follow that path, and it worked out well. Got a gig out of school in 2007 is when I graduated college. So I'm a little
good gig or
full-time position at Microsoft.
Oh shit, that's like the big boy gigs. They
offered me like a signing bonus and everything, and it was like at their corporate headquarters. Nice. And I got shipped off in the first couple of weeks to their global marketing conference and just partied with all the sales and marketing team.
Yeah, dude, that's a gig everyone wants.
One thing that was cool was like when I was in college, I worked at Morton's, which is a steakhouse, and they're like a big chain.
Yeah.
Their average per person is like $100.
Mm-hmm.
So like I learned this whole like bougie, like sell wine, fine dining type lifestyle for like part of my college education was like doing that. I was like working in the restaurant 3 nights a week. So when I was applying for jobs like Google, Facebook, I went down and interviewed with Google, and then I think I did Facebook a year or two later. Anyways, all these companies, it was like, because I had that experience working in a restaurant, I wasn't just this like, they looked at that on paper and said, oh, well, you're not just an engineer. You're actually like someone who knows customer service, has maybe a sales aptitude, and it worked really well for me. It got me into better interviews and got me into better positions.
For sure.
But And I think my generation, you're how old, Luke?
25.
Yeah, so I'm like 10 years older than you. So if you think about it, right, like my generation, YouTube was like pretty small. Like a lot of education that's online now that teaches people how to be an entrepreneur.
It's a good time,
was
man.
Still like it wasn't even popping off yet.
Yeah,
so for me, I think a lot of the awareness and like the self-education was like, I don't know. I didn't have.
It wasn't really available
at the level that people.
I mean, I think honestly, man, it's like YouTube for the longest time was like conspiracy channel. Like it was like nonsense. You go on YouTube to watch cat videos and like fucking just like crazy conspiracy theories about like flat Earth and like the 9/11 towers and like that's the kind of nonsense that was on YouTube for the longest time. Or that's at least what the perception was. I'm sure there was like good content on there, but I mean the last like 5 years maybe it's been like ooh. Yeah, you can
just teach yourself anything.
I mean, I like the YouTube education, man. I'm good, man. If someone came here like, yeah, I got a YouTube education, all right. Can you do it? Like, I think the value of a college degree has plummeted precipitously, like in the last like 5 years now. It's just like.
I mean, I got 3 little brothers. Only one is going to college, and it's largely, I think, because he just doesn't know what he wants.
No, I get that. Yeah,
he's like trying to move on to something.
Yeah,
but he's doing community college. Like he's not going into private school. I mean, graduating from college.
What would you recommend? You think, like, if you had like an 18-year-old right now, fresh out of high school, and they're a smart kid, like they could go to college, they could go to top-notch school, they could not, they could just. What do you think you'd recommend?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man, because like. I think it depends on what they want.
Yeah.
Like largely.
Yeah, for sure.
I would hope like they, as their parent, you can kind of help them see.
You think an 18-year-old has any idea what they want though?
I mean, you kind of have probably more superficial desires usually at 18. At least that's the way I was. Like, I want to have a hot girlfriend and like a nice fast car.
Yeah, what you think you want? Like, yeah.
And then you get all that shit when you get older and you make some money and you're like,
It's actually
at least you hope you do, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think short answer. I would be like, I would almost probably encourage them to do a gap year because I think that's what my little brother did.
That's funny. That's where I'd lean to right now too, man. Because like I went into college,
like travel.
Like, exactly.
Go fuck around.
I mean, just figure out what you actually want. Like fuck around a little bit. Like learn. Don't like just be a like.
You just spent 12 years of your life back to back years.
Exactly. And then like you just sit in a classroom. Like you can go do that for 4 more years, but you still don't know what you want. I really do think people should just like take a year, man. Like this isn't a race to see who gets the college degree. Like by 22, it's like you might be at advantage if you just take that year, think about what you actually want. Just read some books, man. Like I'm not saying you should just smoke weed and like play video games for a year. That's obviously not the optimum move, unless maybe you want to be a video gamer or something. But like, read some books, like figure out the world. And I'm also just not like, I'm not that keen on college campuses these days, man. I feel like they've really like watered down the quality of the education. Like it's really like piss poor now. Like,
it seems like it's almost like a progressive agenda.
Oh, it definitely is, man. It's insane. My little brother shared with me some flyer that they were giving out at his like campus. Like they got my little brother and sister in college right now, and they were giving out some flyer at their campus. Like, and I was looking at this thing, I was like, this is brainwashing. Like, what is this? Like, it literally had a list of channels to follow, like Twitter people to follow, a list of things to do. I'll show you this shit. Like, I was like baffled by that. But like, what? They're giving this out on campus? Like, this seems like borderline propaganda. I mean, it is probably just propaganda. Like, it was insanity, man. You were in Seattle though too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How was? I mean, college there. I mean, it was a little bit earlier, so maybe it wasn't.
It's changed a lot. I mean, I was in college from 2002 until 2007. So, like, when you think about like society in the last
it's changed
12 years, it's like way more polarized.
It is. It has changed.
And it's like, everyone jumps on all these bandwagon. But I mean, back to my story, I guess. Like, getting through school, going to Microsoft, it was a great experience. Like, I would recommend. If you've never done that, like for people, you've always been kind of an entrepreneur type, right? Have you ever like worked for a large corporation?
No, I haven't. But I got out. Like I got out right away. So I was a good Arab boy, man. I was on track for medical school. Like I was doing my parents told me it was the good path, man. Like it was like, yeah, my mom's a doctor, my dad's an engineer. You go get a good education, like solid immigrant family. You go, you study, you get your degree, get a job, you support your family with that good paycheck. Like that's the model. And then like I graduated, and I was lucky because I graduated early.
Okay.
So and then I took a semester, like like because I graduated a semester early, so it was December. So I had a whole 6+ months, like because medical school wouldn't have started till like August, July. So I had a good chunk of time, and in that time, and I was like, yeah, this isn't like because I was fighting myself. Like I was constantly having to convince myself that I need to do this. Like this is what I should do. This is the path I should follow. It wasn't in my heart though. Like I was writing these papers and I was like, this is bullshit. Like like why do you want to be a doctor? Well, I really don't. I don't give a shit. I just want to make some money. That was actually like what I was thinking. And I was like, damn, you spent so much time. You spent like hours just fluffing these essays full of nonsense that you don't even mean on any level, really.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, I was like, yeah, if you keep lying to yourself, that doesn't seem like a recipe for like how long can I lie to myself about this? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah. And then I took a turn. But I mean, yeah.
So you did go to school.
Oh yeah, I graduated. Yeah,
You did undergrad.
Yeah, I finished undergrad, graduated, and then I was pre-med the whole time. I was ready to go. I had an acceptance to one school, and then I was like, I just wasn't in.
So you popped out.
I was done.
You had an opportunity to go into med school.
Oh yeah. It was like, give me 8 months. I could have gone. Like it just wasn't. It wasn't really in the cards, and I didn't like it. And it was also good though because I had some friends that were doing the social media stuff, Stan and Liam and them, and they were already into it. They were like balls deep into it by the time I made my decision. I was like, yeah, that's it. I can't do this. I have to like figure out something else to do.
Yeah.
And so I had a good I got kind of lucky. I had like a place to go. Like, all right, what are you guys doing? Like, I had something I could like fall back on because of the connections I'd made at that point. So it was like, yeah, I just hopped straight into social media and like digital advertising, and I was like, yeah, this is definitely way better for me. Like, I'm just stressed and like fulfilled. Like, I wasn't really happy like just doing that shit. But I mean, I think some people are meant for that path though. You know, some people have it in them to follow that doctor path. You know, like study, go hard. Like that's good for some people. For some people, it's not really meant for them. So, I think you got to really assess what your personality is, what your like tendencies are, and don't like lie to yourself about them just to force what you think you need to do. You should probably find something that suits your talents more than like forming your talents or like trying to mold your talents into like fitting a model.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, so back to the campus on. So you went to college in Seattle. You went to Washington State. Whatever.
Yeah, University of Washington. It's in Seattle.
How was that?
It was cool. I mean, I had a little bit of a unique experience. I lived at home and then went to school, so I didn't live on campus.
So you did the grind then. So you're like less.
So I just went to class, go back home. Then I had my night job on the weekends, so it was a lot of just like studying.
Well, that's the real like, I don't know. Yeah, that's the real like efficient way to do, or the real like. I mean, my big objection with college these days too is like it's two things. One, it's becoming extended adolescence. Like it's become like, all right, go to college for 4 years. You don't really learn that much, man. Like I can learn that shit in a year of like actual studying because you don't study most of the time. If you ask the average college, how much are you studying? No, you're just partying and like trying to deal with this social thing. You're an idiot. You're a teenager. You're still like 18, 19. Like you don't know anything. Everyone's raging with hormones. Like my priority was like, all right, I need to talk to chicks. Like that was what was on my mind at 18. Like how do I talk to girls? Like the obvious fucking thing. Like I didn't need to. I mean, I was on scholarship, but like it doesn't seem worth paying like 10 G's for that. Like it doesn't seem worth it at all.
It's expensive for a little bit.
It's expensive, man. It's an expensive extended adolescence, and you just get to sit in this little bubble of. But that's my primary gripe with college. And then the second one is it's become a little bit of a brainwashing institution, especially in the non like hard science and maths. Like engineering's probably still good. Like science is probably still like solid because there's really just not that much room for political nonsense there. But I mean, they have like, dude, what was it? I mean, all the gender studies nonsense, all the like, what was the major? There was a graduate major. I was like laughing my ass about this recently. Just like it's a new graduate major. It's like some sort of I don't know. It's like it's like a graduate degree in oppression.
Yeah,
it's like that shit, man. I was like, what are you guys teaching, man? Like,
there's like ones where almost like social justice.
Yeah. Oh, that was the one, dude. Yeah. It was social justice. It was a graduate. It was a PhD in social justice. I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, what does that even mean?
It's tough for me to get behind those.
It seems like silliness to me, man. It doesn't seem like there's too much like productive demand for that degree after. Like, because what do you do with that? What are you learning specifically? What kind of product or like value can you add to society with that? Like, because in the end, like all that matters is like people have to add some sort of value in order to create money. That's the only way wealth is created. You have to create some sort of value to society. You have to add something. Mm-hmm. And like I just don't know what kind of theorizing about like social justice can like add to an economy or society. Sounds like it doesn't add too much. Like
I think we come from like the school of entrepreneur hard knocks a little bit, and so like us dealing with how ruthless the actual capitalist marketplace can be.
Yeah,
we look at economics.
Yeah,
like in a very black and white state.
Well, I look at the economics. Yeah,
it's like because we have to.
Yeah,
and we see the numbers and the money and I mean I personally have hired. You know, like not to go down the path of like sexism, but I've hired many women in my company, and unfortunately, we've only been able to keep like a few of them. Like, the majority of them just don't make it in our type of profession.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't hire a woman just because she's a woman.
That doesn't make any sense.
Even though I deep down kind of feel like I should.
Yeah, but I get it. It's an emotional
want diversity.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I always want diversity, but like, yeah, it's tough. It's interesting. It's a very interesting field. I don't know enough about it to really speak to it.
My real issue with that is like the implication that like, all right, so here's how I see it. I see it as like every individual should be judged on their ideas, not like whatever inherent qualities of their being. So like, no, your sex, race, all that's nonsense. Like your ideas are all that matter. The problem with looking at it is being like, we should hire women for women's sake is like, well, what you're literally saying is that women think differently from men. By saying that, you're making like the underlying assumption is because she's a woman, she has a different perspective than a man, which is silly because that is inherently saying that there's there's some sort of difference in ideas just because based on sex. That's not how it should be at all. That doesn't even make sense with like feminist logic. That's counterintuitive logic. Like if you're a feminist, the argument is like women and men's like are able to do like are able to perform in the same way. There should be no like you shouldn't be judging people inherently based on their sex, right? That's the feminist. You should give everyone a chance based on their actual like abilities, not just their sex. And in saying it's like, what does this diversity mean if you have enough women and enough people of this gender, and of this race and of this race? Basically, what you're saying is each race has their own set of ideas, and everyone in that race embodies those ideas, because that's what that logic means. It's like, and that doesn't make any sense. It should be just like, you are what your ideas are. And yeah, we should just toss the color and the sex, all that out the equation. Eventually, I think we'll get there. I mean, but I just don't know if we're taking the right path. I don't know that we're taking the right, I think the real path is like, if we really want to start taking a crack at this now, it's like, all right, from now on, moving forward, all applications, all resumes, all like applications to colleges, all that shit. Just stamp the names and the genders and the races all off that. Yeah. Let's see what happens. Like, that's the way to actually do it. You want to get rid of those biases. Like, all right, just toss all that information out. And then just, like, yeah, that's merit-based. And then, but the problem with that is, and we know what it's going to be, is like merit-based never yields equity. Merit-based is equality of opportunity, but it does not yield equity. That is not what's going to happen because talent is unevenly distributed amongst the human population. It isn't like everyone's not the same. Like I'm not 6'9" and going to be in the NBA. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. I can cry about it and say that the NBA is like sexist or racist or like discriminating against my shortness, but it's not really relevant. Like it is true. They can just outperform me in that like metric.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you try to like level the playing field of like the NBA, for example, it'd be a shit show. It'd
be a shit product. Nobody wants to watch that.
You wouldn't. Yeah, you just wouldn't. It'd be very bizarre.
Yeah, dude. It's like let's level it out. You know, we gotta be, and that's the other thing. Like, well, I mean, let's level out the races in sports. Let's do that too. How about let's just level it all out? Like, it's a silly proposition. It's ludicrous. It doesn't make any sense. But when you say it like, oh, engineering, yeah, we need to level we need to make it 50-50 in engineering. It's like, oh, that's not gonna happen. Like, it's not gonna happen because you're like dismissing people's inherent desires or their inherent interests. Like, I mean, the social science or the psychological like literature on this is pretty clear. Like, men and women have differences in interest to some degree. Like, it's not all men and all women can't. Like, it's not like that. But it's a range, and there's an overlap amongst the two like distributions. But it's not like Yeah, it's just men are more interested in things. Women are more interested in people. Women dominate medicine. We don't complain about that. It makes it's fine. They should too if that's what they're more interested in. And more of them are pursuing that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And then like men dominate engineering. Men want to build and fuck with things, man. Men want to build like little robots and shit. It seems to be a thing.
Yeah, it seems like the argument is like going the wrong direction in the sense that it is focused on equalizing who is doing what, instead of like looking at what needs to be done and seeing what makes sense in terms of who would do that,
who's best to perform that.
Exactly.
No, I mean equal opportunity is in everyone's best interest. Like if everyone has the opportunity, like if you're a girl who's just a crusher in engineering, I don't think anyone's opposed to that. Like I don't think anyone reasonable.
Biases though, I mean maybe a lot
of course
of
to some degree, man.
Education is around the fact that there's so much bias that maybe there is like that Muggsy Bogues.
Not familiar actually.
Like a really short like basketball player who can come into the NBA and like just own shit, and they're just incredibly talented, even though they're all
for sure
of who they are, like they shouldn't.
Well, there's exceptions for sure, man. And there's biased people, and there's sexist people, and there's racist people.
So I think maybe these studies are driving a big initiative of why they're existing and why they are becoming these majors is because they're seeing that in society, and it's preventing these underdogs from like getting opportunities.
They're not motivated to,
like you said, equalizing the opportunity.
Yeah, but what is that? But let's say we do that though, right? And then let's say there's a difference in like it's still like people like let's say we equalize the opportunity, the playing field for everyone. Like there is inherently like differences in humans, right? Some people are any game you create, any competitive pursuit, creative, like athletic, whatever it is, there's going to be a range of abilities. Different people are going to be better or worse at things. And if you create any sort of game, that's what's going to happen. So like there's never going to be equity. That's not a possibility really. That's unless you're going to violently enforce that. There's no way to actually like do that. You're not like there's guys that are just way smarter than us. They just are. They're fucking, and they're girls too. Like whatever it is, there's people that are just their IQ is just out of like way exceeds us, and there's nothing that we could do to ever do that. And like enforcing the playing field to like just be equal across the board and not taking these like differences in like people's ability into account is going to be worse for everyone, man. Like you want people to just maximize their talents. You want a minimal barrier playing field where if you can identify your talent, you can maximize that with limited opposition. And don't get me wrong, there's of course racist and there's sexist, but let's be honest about like society today. Do you think in the West today sexism is a major problem? It seems like everyone's bending over backwards to like hire women. Like it's like it's so we've overcorrected, and it's just a natural way of the world. Like the sexism was a thing at one point, and so was racism, so were all these things, but then it wasn't, and then we just kept overcorrecting, and then eventually, and now we're getting it. Like it's gonna backlash, man. There's gonna be like we overcorrect this way. It's gonna have to find the middle, man, and I think that's actually what we're seeing now. Like this Trump and all this like chaos and all this like polarization is becoming like the pendulum is swinging, man, and the right answer is in the middle. We just keep swinging too far to one degree, too far to other degree. Like
it's always tough because like I used to be really, really strongly conservative fiscally, and very socially liberal. Go smoke your drugs.
That's a good spot to be, man. I think
do your drugs. Just do it on your own terms and don't kill anybody in the process. If you're going to go drive a car and get drunk, then yes, you should be prosecuted. But, aside from that, if you're in your house, do any drugs, fuck anything, whatever you want to do it. It's none of my business what you do.
Yeah.
If you want to harm yourself and you're mentally stable, then go for it, And then I guess I think I've swung. I used to be very like kind of because I went to school. I was more sort of Democrat because I didn't understand economics. To be honest, that was like the biggest thing.
That's a funny thing, man. They're not teaching that.
They talk a lot about quote unquote free, right? Like free healthcare.
Yeah. What does that mean?
And free public transportation.
That sounds great though. It's also good for your education, bro.
But when you study economics, like none of it's free.
Nothing's ever free.
It's never free. Like you should not be as a government using the word free in a program they get misled. Like they get completely confused, and they think that this shit is free. And it's like, no, there's a salary for the doctor. There's a high cost for the prescriptions that they're prescribing.
Yeah.
And it's basically getting pulled out of your tax revenues that you're getting pulled out of your check that you don't even know is getting pulled out of your income.
Exactly.
So like, when you understand that, which really I think you get to learn as a business owner, because you do the taxes.
Because you pay big tax checks
taxes,
too. You send
pay
big
your
checks.
You see every dollar come in and go out the business, and you see where it goes to the IRS, whoever it is. Then you know that kind of opens your eyes. But most people in college aren't doing that. They don't have that exposure unless they study economics.
They're at the bottom of the financial totem pole, man. And it's easy to convince them that free is like, because they're young, they're college, they will be good later. But old people just obviously have more money. They've been playing the game for way longer. And then when you say free, it's like, well, I'm in debt. I have student loans. I have all this. Yeah, it should be free. It should. I do want and then it's like, yeah, no one's teaching economics, man. No one's like, there's this book called Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. It's like a 150-page book, man. Yeah, that should be on every college campus. They need to just be handing that out. Like, hey guys, there's no such thing as anything being free. It's not how it works. The money has to come from somewhere. Like,
it's a great book.
It's a really solid book,
like
man.
The first chapter is like what, like
the broken glass,
breaking a window.
Yeah,
it's
it's broken glass fallacy. It's like, oh, if I break your window, if someone breaks your window, a business's window or something, that's good for the economy because now someone has to repair the window. Yeah. But like, what you're not thinking there is like, yeah, sure, the window repair guy just made some money, so that's, I guess, good for him. But the money that the business owner had to spend to repair that window was money he could have used to hire someone or like whatever. So you can't create jobs through destruction. You can only create wealth and whatnot through productivity. You have to have productivity.
That kind of opens your eyes, but most people in college aren't doing that. They don't have that exposure unless they study economics.
They're at the bottom of the financial totem pole, man. And it's easy to convince them that free is like, because they're young, they're college, they will be good later. But old people just obviously have more money. They've been playing the game for way longer. And then when you say free, it's like, well, I'm in debt. I have student loans. I have all this. Yeah, it should be free. It should. I do want and then it's like, yeah, no one's teaching economics, man. No one's like, there's this book called Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. It's like a 150-page book, man. Yeah, that should be on every college campus. They need to just be handing that out. Like, hey guys, there's no such thing as anything being free. It's not how it works. The money has to come from somewhere. Like,
it's a great book.
It's a really solid book,
like
man.
The first chapter is like what, like
the broken glass,
breaking a window.
Yeah,
it's
broken glass fallacy. It's like, oh, if I break your window, if someone breaks your window, a business's window or something, that's good for the economy because now someone has to repair the window. Yeah. But like, what you're not thinking there is like, yeah, sure, the window repair guy just made some money, so that's, I guess, good for him. But the money that the business owner had to spend to repair that window was money he could have used to hire someone or like whatever. So you can't create jobs through destruction. You can only create wealth and whatnot through productivity. You have to have productivity. Someone has to create something new in order to have any
actual
wealth.
That's the key. You know, when you talk about politics, in my experience, there's this emphasis on with the left side. There's this emphasis on free, and there's this emphasis on. I just had the thought here. There's this emphasis on free, and there's this emphasis on creating jobs.
Yeah.
And the goal is not to create jobs for the sake of creating jobs.
No, yeah, that's exactly it.
You can create
nonsense jobs.
I could hire 18 media buyers tomorrow. That does nobody any good.
No.
It's going to create some jobs, and yes, I'm going to pour some money out of my company, but I'm not going to benefit from that. The marketplace isn't going to benefit from that. The only thing that's going to happen is I'm going to spend a lot of time and money on training people that are all going to totally suck.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't benefit you. So instead of saying free and instead of saying job creation, you want to think production.
Exactly.
And you want to think what's the best use of the capital that's in the economy.
Yeah. Well, the Democratic or left-wing argument for that though is like, oh, if you create those 8 jobs or you hire those 20 people or whatever it is, right? And you give them all a paycheck, they're going to go back and spend money in the economy. But what they're missing in that is like, if they're not producing, you're eventually not going to make, the business is no longer going to make money. So it can't pay them. So that's like a temporary thing. And beyond that, any money that you could have that you're wasting on them and you're not getting any production out of, that's money you were going to invest. Like people don't like just sit on money. That's not a thing. Like no one who's wealthy in any way is just sitting on their fucking millions in their bank. Like that's ludicrous. It's like, if you want to make money, you need to make that money move. So like that money has to go and be invested in some other thing, or it has to move somewhere else. And it's like, you need to find the most efficient way for that money to be invested. And on the tail end of that investment, there needs to be production for anything to actually happen. So investing in like people that aren't going to produce, and then like that's basically what all government like hiring programs end up being. It's just like, just 20 jobs have been created and they're all just like doing nothing, and the money's coming from taxes, but those people that are paying those taxes don't have that money anymore. So any investment they could have made with that money is now just not going to happen, and that money is just instead going to taxes to a useless program to create jobs for some people, but like there's no actual production. So it's just a silly loop that's a short-term look at it. And if, in the long term, that guy who's paying that extra taxes can't create more wealth, so he can't pay as much taxes, where he could have, like, if you let him keep his investment, keep the taxes on the, like, if you're not taking that tax money from him, he would create more like production somehow. Like he would invest that money and he would create more production, and from that increased production he would actually create more jobs that are actually meaningful, that would create more production. And that's how, but it's, we don't know economics anymore, man. They got tossed out the window, dude. Just create jobs, man. That's all you got to do. Create jobs. It's a great political talking point. I'm going to create jobs. Oh, yeah.
Well, so, I mean, like, a lot of people talk about this shit, and I've actually thought about this a lot. And in one of my kind of, like, longer-term missions in life is to rework the education system. Because I think...
It's a lofty goal, my friend. I like
going into high school and, like, elementary school, there's so much we do that just fucks kids up, you know, in the American diseducational system, where like we force them to sit for 6 hours a day when they're super hyperactive, when like they want to run and fucking,
just give them Adderall, bro.
You know, like you want to like, it's like
just pump it full of Adderall.
We shove them into a classroom for like 8 hours a day. We wake them up at 7 a.m. when they're fucking in growth phase and they're trying to grow. Yeah, they need to sleep in a little. It's just like all these things we do that are just so fucked, and like
doesn't make too much sense, man.
You need to learn how to read and write. Like everybody wants to have literacy. Yeah. And there's got to be a program for that. But like, what about like emotional health? Like teaching kids how to avoid like getting into negative thought loops, understanding what depression is, anxiety. There's so many people out there.
I guess how would you approach fixing that though? Because like the thing is like you need the problem is teachers aren't that great. Let's be honest. Public school teachers are like, some of them I'm sure are phenomenal. Sure. But the average public school teacher is not like some like great intellectual who has the world really figured out and is going to be like an incredibly positive influence on like a growing up kid. It's not necessarily true. Right. It's a job. It's a job that people do because, I mean, some people love it. Some people, that's just what the path they fell on. Like most people don't love their job. I think we know this as a society at this point. Like depression rates are all the, people aren't really that enthusiastic about their jobs these days. Yeah. So like, how do you create a system where like the teachers are top notch so that you can have this, because that's what kind of, I think what you need. Like,
well, like I think the whole curriculum needs to be revamped. Like I think, you know, I haven't spent a ton of time on this. I think I will after I hit 40 and I've gotten my like financial and business goals kind of nailed down, because I'm still working on those right now. Mm-hmm. So I haven't spent a lot of time on this project, but it's like once I get to 40 and I kind of retire from business.
What's the project you think?
It's gonna be like really figuring out what a curriculum would look like, because I think it's, if you build a system that attracts, like if you build a system that produces amazing results, people will want to be a part of it. Yeah. So I think the problem is like, we don't want to go work in the education system because no one gets paid. No, it's like, it's a shitty system. Yeah. But like if you found an industry that was super sexy, where like you're teaching, you know, all these cool kids. Like I thought, like I've gone to like my brother's high schools and talked.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing, man. I think a lot of successful people are would love the opportunity to give back and like teach. They're down,
but you need to give them a platform to do it, and you need to give it in a way where like it actually is interesting to the audience. Right now, kids are forced so much to do what they don't want to do that they come out of high school and they're kind of like jaded and they're just scarred from that whole experience. And then you put them through college and it's like they finally get away from home and they don't have a curfew anymore, and they're packed in with like a bunch of other kids that are raging, and it's like, okay. But the point I was trying to make is that to fix that, I think there's really valuable lessons that you have to teach kids at an early age, and you need to stop teaching them skill. Like you need to focus on more important subjects that are practical to life. Like how about like teach kids how to learn?
Oh, that's a good one. No, that's a good one.
When you first get into school, you never are taught how to learn. Like you don't
sit in this chair for 8 hours.
Time understanding your own learning style. Like a lot of us are visual. I'm an auditory or a kinesthetic. Like what's your submodalities for learning? Like how do you get your information? And we should be like catering to that. Like get them in their organization, teach them how to learn. They need to understand economics. Like no one fucking knows economics out of high school. Very few kids do. The ones that do are the ones that go on to be very successful.
Even the ones that take economics classes, man, like they taught me nonsense. When I took senior year of high school, I took economics, AP economics. It was nonsense, dude. They didn't teach me anything. Like, it was just mostly we were just talking about like Keynesian economics
like formulas,
and
right?
and I was just like
exponential growth and
like this doesn't mean anything. No one's actually teaching economics. Like I read one book about economics, like after that book that I said earlier, Economics in One Lesson, and I was like, wow, could have just taught that. I learned more in that book than I learned in like a whole year of economics in high school, and I was like, what a waste of my time. It was just pissing away my time. And when you're young, your time's so valuable. It's like the compound on that is like insane.
Yeah. The right trajectory. At say you knew what you wanted to do at age 10.
It's a different ball game, man. You're looking at a different ball game. At 10, if you have that's an insane edge. If you're like got a good head on your shoulders.
Imagine if you took that at a macro level with all society.
Yeah. If like
and you help them understand like how not to do evil, but to do good. Like I think we genuinely all want to do good things, and we all want to offer a lot of value to the world and help. Humans by nature, I think, want to help other humans. Like that's been my general experience in life.
It's a positive outlook, my friend.
Like like
a little darker.
You don't. You generally speaking don't pine and think about how to destroy people's lives. You generally think
I don't think most people do. Yeah,
you can be selfish.
Yeah.
I think generally younger,
we're all kind of selfish.
You're selfish.
Yeah.
But like as you get older, you realize that even in a selfish way, being less selfish is going to benefit you more. To like help people. So you kind of, I think you mature. I hope people mature. Yeah. So like, I think back to that education thing that like, you got to teach them how to learn.
Yeah.
You got to help them understand their learning submodalities, because that's the first fucking thing you're going to do in school is like understand how you learn, how memory works, like how you process information, how you associate new learning experience with existing stuff in your brain, understanding how your mind works. You got a conscious, subconscious, you've got they call it like the human brain, the mammalian brain, and the reptilian brain. So you've got these three brains, and your human brain is very logical, your mammalian brain is very emotional, and your reptilian brain is very sensational and instinctual driven. So like, I think every person should know like the basics of their anatomy, of like what their body does, how their biology works. We're seeing a lot of good stuff come out now about like diet and wealth and health.
See, that's the other thing I was about to say. What do you think about so I look at school and I'm like, yeah, you're having these kids sitting in a chair for this is just unhealthy. This doesn't even make sense. Like you're having these like energy balls sit in a chair for like 8 hours straight. You're feeding them garbage, and you're not letting them exercise. And then you're confused when they're not performing well or like whatever. So like I'm just looking at it. I'm like, we're taking the wrong. Like honestly, kids should be going to school and they should be playing and exercising for like half of that. Half the time there should just be on the playground / getting socialized, getting exercise.
Have you ever been to like a Tony Robbins event?
No, I haven't.
So I went to 2 conferences last year. I brought my team to Unleash the Power Within. Mm-hmm. It's a 3-day event where like you walk on fire.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, so like you're jumping up and down like a kid in this conference, like 75% of the time. The other 25%, you're sitting down in your chair, hearing from like amazing experts about like how to get what you want out of your own life.
Yeah.
That's a fucking school.
That's the less. Yeah. That seems like a way better lesson.
It's like what you want to do. And it's entertainment. Cause like you can't pay attention to shit.
Not for 8 hours straight, man. You can't just sit in a chair and pay attention.
How long can you focus on one thing? Like 20 minutes, maybe?
I mean, it depends. As you get better, but it's like, yeah, man. Focused, you can't just focus. Maybe. But you can't focus like that. You definitely can't focus for just like 5 hours at a time. You know, that's just not reasonable. But we've got a solution, man. We got Adderall. I guess they just pump these little kids full of Adderall, and now they're sitting still for 8 hours. It's like, oh, it's great. I got ADHD. It's clearly what it is. It's like, dude, it baffles me actually how I'm like, dude, I know like people now that are like, they've been on Adderall since they were little kids, and they have an addiction. You have a full-blown addiction. Like and it's not your fault. That's what sucks. You didn't make this bad choice. Like you were just, your parents were like conned into believing, or like whatever situation like brought this about. Our society, parents, schools, teachers, whatever it is, it's a clusterfuck. We've got people hooked on Adderall now. And then they're like, I mean, it's mind-boggling to me, man. Like if someone came to me and told me, like, hey, you should put your little kid on amphetamines. Oh, yeah? Is that what I should do? You fucking crazy fuck? What is wrong with you? What?
Yeah, my brother had like 80 milligrams of Adderall a day prescription in high school.
I mean, that's insane to me, man. Dude, that's like...
bang out, like, you know, internet marketing courses and books.
And like, yeah, no, it works.
You get a lot of shit done.
It works,
the right
man.
shit, but you get a lot of stuff done.
No, it works. I'm not like denying the power of Adderall. It works, man. Amphetamines definitely make you on it. Like, yeah. But the question to me is like, elementary school? Like elementary school? That seems ludicrous, man. That seems absolutely insane
it's like
to me.
A tweaker's dosage, right?
Dude,
taking that.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm sure they like work the kids up, but like here's the reality of Adderall. You definitely build a tolerance. You constantly have to increase your dose if you're talking like long-term usage over like childhood. Like, yeah, by the time that kid's in high school, like if you start a kid on 5 milligrams, like when they're in elementary school, by the time that kid's in high school, he's going to be taking, and you've got them both psychologically and physiologically addicted because if they're taking the Adderall, I've seen this all the time. It's like, they're like people who take Adderall because they're like, all right, now to get some work done, I have to take my Adderall, and then they get to work. And that's psychological addiction. And then there's obviously the physiological addiction because if you took that Adderall away, they'd go into withdrawal. They would. There's no way about that. There's no way around that. Like,
yeah, you go back to this baseline.
You are in withdrawal. You'll be depressed for a while. Like you'll be in physical withdrawal, man. Amphetamines are no joke. Like, Adderall is literally a methyl group.
Did you ever take it?
But Adderall? Yeah, I've taken Adderall before, but not like I didn't take it in like my parents weren't crazy like that, man. My parents would, dude. If a teacher came and was like,
had a prescription for it.
"Oh fuck," I mean, like, yeah, no, not like.
But you took it in college.
Yeah, exactly. I've taken it in college before. It's like, yeah, it's crammed for a test. Take a little out of you, like it's a thing. Yeah. But like I mean, just the kid prescription rates of Adderall is just like, what? This is insanity.
Yeah. I mean, the educational system needs a lot of work.
Dude, when you have to prescribe kids amphetamines to like keep them like in your system, something's wrong with your system.
Well, and I think like for me personally, I feel like coming from that much more traditional generation where there wasn't YouTube and stuff like that available. I think we got our first like internet connection in our home when I was in like 8th grade.
Yeah.
So like, you know, a lot of kids now, it's like they got an iPad by the time they're 8.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, and that's cool. I think it's awesome. It's just the whole curriculum is so antiquated. It's so
it's way antiquated,
and it doesn't give people a real like set of tools to handle today's world.
Whose fault do you think that is, though? Because it's like,
well, we kind of built the system, right? We built it decades ago.
Yeah,
and we built it a long time. And think about it too, like, okay, there's not a lot of money in it right now. I mean, there is a lot.
What does that mean? There is a lot of money. Do you think it's like because here's I'm a proponent of charter schools, honestly. Like I think it's a better move because
it's like a private school.
So no, charter schools are basically like they're private schools, but basically so right now, like if you go to public school, right, they're basically the government is paying some amount for each kid's education, and they give that money to each school, and they're publicly funded, right? So the charter school idea is simply like, the amount that the government's going to pay is what it is. Let's put that into the private market in the sense that like if you start a school,
so it's government subsidized, but it collects private.
So it's not quite. It's like you attach that dollar figure to each kid's head, and they can take that money wherever school they want.
Okay.
So you see what I'm saying? So it's like if the government, instead of like the government funding the school in your area with your head, so they take a role at school, right? And it's like however many students that
so you
school
get
has.
the budget that
you get the money that they're allocating to your children either way.
And then you can use that.
And you can use that at any school you want.
Got it.
And well, what that would do is like the best schools would obviously have all the parents flocking to them.
Well, the rich would get better educations, and the poor would.
But would they? Well, that would open it up to the poor though, because you're giving them the dollar value, and they're not enclosed to their geographical area, because that's a problem. If you live in the hood or in some poor area, your school is shit because you're in that bad area. So imagine if you could like take that money that is going to go to your school. It's the same amount of money for no matter where you are, kind of, and just take that and go to any school you want in the city. And well, like, because then you're actually like, it's almost like, I mean, yeah, it opens up private schools to the poor. Like, think about it now. Like, that's what rich people are doing anyways. They're like, this school system sucks. I'm going to take private money and just send my kid to private school. Why not just give everyone that opportunity? Private schools are clearly better. Like, they're not worse. Look at that. They're not worse, man.
Yeah.
So I like that model a little more. But
I mean, the money can definitely help for sure. I totally get that.
Well, it's not. But what you're doing is you're not saying like add more money into the system, because I don't think that's actually necessary. I think we need to move around how we allocate the money. Like, I think we need to change our approach. Like, I look at schools right now and it's like, they don't need more money. They need to completely revamp the way they're doing it. Yeah. They need to change it all. Like, the way they're doing it needs to change. Like, you can't have like 30 desks and just come sit here all day. Like, you need to revamp that all. And no amount of money is going to make that happen, man. I think just tossing more money on the problem is like silliness. And the other major issue is like, if a school is shit, it should close. To me, it should close. If a school, like, because that's the private market, like, that's what happens. If a business is garbage, what happens to it?
Yeah,
it goes out of business. But, well, how would a school?
But it's a little different because you actually have to serve that market.
But you can serve that market.
But how do you do that if you shut it down?
You could shut, like, that's what I'm saying, because they should, like, if each kid has the money attached to their head, they will go wherever they want. They have like a $6,000 voucher for school, and it's like they can spend that wherever they want. Like, whatever school is the best, they can just spend it there.
But a lot of schools are maxed out on their.
No, so what do you think would happen, man? Do you think like people are just going to let that money go to waste? Here's what would happen: some people would like create schools, and those schools would be awesome because they want that enrollment. That's money, man. That's like $7,000 a head. Like, that is real money, and people, I'm almost positive, man. People are like, some entrepreneurs be like, all right, we're building awesome schools. We're making some great schools, and then. Yeah, they'd be getting that money, and the best school would win, I think. It's just, I mean, the voucher thing's definitely been out there for a while. Milton Friedman talked about it a lot. I'm a big fan of Milton Friedman. He's the economist. No, he was the Nobel Prize winning economist in the 80s, I think. Very fiscally conservative.
Okay.
Very Yeah, I mean, just super fiscally.
You didn't write the economics more lesson, or did you?
No, that was Henry Hazlitt.
That's right.
Yeah, Henry Hazlitt. No, Milton Friedman's a Nobel Prize winning economist, though. He was pretty big, but all across the 80s.
Have you read any of Thomas Sowell?
Yeah, I have. I love Thomas Sowell, man.
Economics.
Yeah, Thomas Sowell's real good. I think I have one of his books around here. But Thomas Sowell's money, he follows the same school of thought as Milton Friedman, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's another book I have that someone gave me that I haven't read yet. It's more of like a left economics book. Mm-hmm. And I want to get into it.
I'd be curious because that's.
I want to hear the other side of the equation from an economic standpoint.
Yeah, I'd be curious to read it too, man. The beauty of economics is it is math essentially. It's like you can't actually make that many logic because you can have this different approach, and the big mistake I see a lot of left wing economic theory making is they only look at immediate effects. They don't look at the next step. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that broken glass fallacy. It's like they look at the initial effect. Yes, someone will get this job to fix the window, but they don't look at the next level, like the next order consequences. But that money isn't going to be able to be spent by that business owner on a new employee. Instead, he has to worry about fixing that. So they look at the immediate beneficiary. So let's take something like what is it? Maybe a minimum wage. Right? So what does that do? Like a minimum wage is all right, the immediate effect is everyone has $15. What's the next level effect? What's actually going to happen? You're going to hire less people.
You raise the barrier,
exactly.
The barrier for employers to provide jobs.
You raise the barrier for entry.
You remove the opportunity for anyone whose skills aren't at that.
Exactly. Who does that hurt the most? the lowest skilled people in the group get hurt the most by that, because you're creating a bullshit barrier that, like, because the reality is not everyone's worth $15 an hour. Like, not everyone's worth X amount. And then why 15? Why not 30? Why not 40?
If they want to, they can ask for, like, why not?
Yeah, because why don't they make that right now? Because they're not, like, their current production isn't worth that to the employer. And if they could find any employer that would take that current skill level for 15, then they would do that, but they can't. So that's what you're saying is, like, let's just artificially overvalue everything. So what's that going to do? Like, first order consequences, yeah, more people have a little bit more, some people have a little bit more money and they can afford. Next order consequences, way less people are employed. And, like, all those people that could have gotten like $7 an hour now have zero.
Yeah.
All of those people that don't meet that stringent, like, that skill level, they're going to get nothing. So what does that create? More unemployment. What does more unemployment create? A drastic, like, cycle downward into poverty. Like, more unemployment means more people just sitting around, not busy, which creates more crime and more, like, everything. Like,
yeah, lowers productivity.
It's not good. Yeah. But the obvious thing is, like, well, if you give everyone $15 an hour, if that's the minimum wage and people have a living wage and they can afford this and they can, like, buy more stuff in the economy, and it's like, yeah, that's Keynesian economics, pretty much. That's a poor, like, thing, but that's a big thing, I think, in Keynesian economics, where it's like, the people need to, like, if you pay people more, they have more money to put back into the economy because they're buying more stuff. But that misses the whole fact that, like, people buying stuff does not create a productive economy. There needs to be productive stuff to buy. You have to have something produced to be bought. Like, so yeah, just pumping more money into consumption doesn't actually solve anything. You need to produce as much as possible to grow your economy. That's basically the gist of it. But yeah, I need to do some more reading on, like, I don't know, just left-wing argument.
Trying to understand the reasoning and the math behind the other side.
Yeah,
there's so much out there that there's got to be something logically that they have connected the dots on, where it's like, you missed that,
I would think so. You would think so. I would hope so. But in my experience, no, I don't think so, man. I think it's just, like,
a lot of
emotions. It's just emotions. It sounds nice, man. It makes sense. And it appeals to certain personality types more than others, but it also just appeals to our humanity. Dude, in an ideal world, of course I would love it if everyone just had great jobs and everyone just had enough money for everything. And, like, but that's emotional, and that's not reality. Like, there is, like, a economic reality. There is, like, a plus minus. There's math. There's numbers. There's, like, there is what it, like, the world is what it is. Just because we want it to be, like, some great, like, utopia.
Yeah, it's not.
It's just not. Like,
it doesn't. Yeah.
Humans don't play out that way.
Yeah.
That's some crazy. What other books have you? Any other, like, good book recs?
Lately I'm reading, I did read that 16 Rules book by Jordan Peterson. I thought that was really good.
12 Rules for Life? Yeah, that's 12 Rules. Yeah, that's a solid one.
That was a dense one.
Have you, do you know Will Durant at all?
Yeah. Lessons of...
Yeah, Lessons of History is a great one.
Essays or whatever it is of history.
It's Lessons of History. It's like, it's another great book. I don't know how they're not giving it to people in college, man. It's a 100-page book, dude. Yeah. It's like it's a small book, but it's so great. There's a great
book, actually, if you want to go on that path, called How to Read a Book.
Oh, really?
By the former editor, Morton Radler, of Encyclopedia Britannica. And he's, like, the chief editor of, like, what used to be the Wikipedia before the internet took over and made Wikipedia.
I love Amazon, man. Any book rec?
It's dense. It's very dense. But in terms of, like, learning, if that's the topic we're talking about, I think that's probably one of the best books to read.
Yeah.
Because, it literally is telling you how to read a book.
Nice. Yeah, I just bought it. I always do that. If it's, like, a good book, it's like, just buy it. And then but I read enough, I guess. But
it kind of depends on the topic. Because, my general skew is, like, right now is marketing, sales, and therapy. I've read a lot of books on therapy.
Like, what kind of therapy?
A lot in trauma. Mm-hmm. So I've read a lot of books on trauma. Probably about 7 or 8, like, pretty big volumes on trauma. Different types of trauma therapy. Out of
curiosity, why are you pushing that button so much?
Because I personally suffered from anxiety a couple of years ago, and I found myself just, like, wound up all the time in business. Mm-hmm. And as I went down the rabbit hole of understanding more about that, like, trauma was, like, a big piece of it, I think, that I experienced, and just self-inflicted sort of ways, dealing with like post-traumatic stress, like constantly stressed all the time, and not having good tools in my own war chest to sort of work through that. And I think people in today's society don't have a lot of like psychological,
the tools.
like they call it psychological flexibility. They don't know how to deal with fear. And as a business owner, you need to be able to face fear and unknown all the fucking time.
Yeah.
So like I've read a lot of books in that realm. Like,
yeah.
You know, a couple great ones. There's one called The Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. If you haven't read that, he is an ACT therapist, and acceptance and commitment therapy is a form of therapy created by Stephen Hayes. And in the therapy itself, another great book he wrote is called The Happiness Trap.
I haven't read that one, but I've heard of that one. Someone's already mentioned it to me. That's an interesting one, man, because I think that's hitting the right button. That is a weird idea that's sold to us. Like, you need to pursue happiness. Like, that's the thing to pursue.
You can't really pursue happiness.
But you can.
You know, if you try to pursue it, it eludes you. In fact, I think I heard this from not Ramit Sethi, but like a Naval Ravikant. He's like a big angel investor in Silicon Valley.
Oh, okay.
And he was on a podcast, and I heard him talking about it. And the way you framed it, because he's a big reader, like he reads a shit ton of stuff. Like
seems to be a trend among successful people.
Very successful, like probably worth tens of millions. Anyways, he said that happiness is the absence of desire.
That's some Buddhist shit right there.
And I've kind of been wanting to think about it too. Like, I think happiness is when your expectations are met well, consistently.
Yeah.
And expectations is tricky because, like, when you're an entrepreneur and you're striving, or anyone for that matter in today's society, what are you looking at? Like, if you're looking at social media, you're always looking at the best version of everyone's life. And usually you're following people who are inspiring you. Yeah. But at the same time, unconsciously, it's creating a desire that can be like incessantly pulling you in a direction instead of enjoying the moment.
Well, that's definitely there.
In the status quo.
Well, that's definitely there.
And the same can happen in business, where you have like a $1 million
company and you're looking at some guys.
And you got all this work you got to do, right? And your desire is to get it done. But you're not happy because it's not done. And you're at this moment, but you need to be here. And you lose sight of the fact that where you are in the journey.
Yeah.
And how you can emotionally process it.
Yeah, that's an issue. Happiness is always like, the way I've always looked at it is like, happiness is the end of an equation, and it's like there's like multiple facets to life. It's like you have your health, your body, all that. You got to take care of that. You have to have enough money in a house, and like some sort of material wealth, and then you need relationships. And if you have those three things, I've always been like, happiness will be fine. The happiness will take care of itself. It's like the result. You just need to get the pieces of the equation. If you have none of those things, you're going to be miserable. If you have one of those things, you're on the right road, but like you need to like shore up the other things.
Yeah.
And it's like and this is going to sound kind of harsh, but like I've seen people and I'm like, they're sad or they're depressed, like especially young people. And I'm like, like you're sad and you're whatever. And it's like, well, maybe maybe it's okay to be sad. Maybe you're not achieving what you should be right now. Maybe like your equations are off. And the reason you're sad is because, or you feel like shit about yourself is because like you're not doing what you need to be doing.
Well, here's the thing too. There's this huge movement about social media and this happiness thing where people don't realize it's okay to be shitty.
Yeah, that's the thing. Exactly. It's like
a range.
It's okay.
As a human being, like, you should feel like shit.
If you're doing stuff that is shit, you should feel like shit.
Even if you're doing great shit.
Yeah. You're not just going to be happy all the time.
Come out. And if you don't allow yourself to experience those.
Yeah. If you're constantly trying to be happy, you have to be happy always. If I'm not happy, something's off. It's like, that's a road to like destruction, man. That's a tough one. If you're just constantly chasing that, like, I need to be happy. There can't be any stress. There can't be any sadness.
So ACT therapy, the first part of the ACT acronym is acceptance. Mm-hmm. The acceptance of whatever's going on inside you emotionally.
Yeah.
And then, there are some other schools of thought I think of, like, where it's like, how do you, because like, okay, you got a nice apartment, you've done well for yourself, you by all standards of a 25-year-old in business, it seems like you have a great life.
Yeah.
But like, if you were a billionaire's, like from Saudi Arabia, if you were his son and you were living here, you'd probably think yourself is just a shithole.
Like not
like,
achieving
you just
shit.
hate yourself, right?
No, yeah.
And like, there's this,
where
like,
you set the
dynamic
bar is interesting
in your head about the expectation.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting.
So it's like, how do you? I almost think like there's got to be a way to hack that, where like you can still strive for success in a very driven way with a lot of ambition, but at the same time be totally fulfilled. Because if you listen to like Grant Cardone, he's like, I'm not satisfied. I'm never going to be satisfied. Like,
that's kind of how I see it, though. Actually, I'm probably
right?
never going to be like that's how I kind of see it too. Like,
but I want to be satisfied. I want to be satisfied and driven. I mean, sit there and be fucking. No,
I get what you're saying. Like, there's something to be said for being fulfilled, like in what you have.
Emotion, right? The emotion is what makes you do shit. If you don't have an emotional drive, you don't really have a lot of drive.
See, I see it a little different, man. I do stuff regardless. I think you need to toss the emotion out, and you should just do what you need to do always. And then, like, regardless of your emotional ups and downs, like the emotional ups and downs are always going to be there.
But your drive is ultimately going to be emotional. Like whatever you tell yourself logically you're doing. Yes, day to day, you might have a shitty feeling of emotional state, and you're like, I still got to do this. That I totally get. And like,
you just got to do exactly like do what you have to do regardless of how you feel.
What you have to do is ultimately driven by getting you to an emotional state that you.
I guess what you think you need to do is up to you.
You think the things that what you're doing is going to get you to is going to make you feel.
That's what you're considering valuable, or like that's how you value it.
That's all values are. Values are just emotional states.
No, that's fair.
At the end of the day, they're not like a car is not a value. It's the feeling you get from driving that car.
No, I get. But
like, the house is not the value. It's the feeling you get from owning the house, the security, the safety you get from having a bigger bank account. Like those are the emotional, quote unquote, values that you have. Yeah, but it's all emotion. Emotion drives you. Like I wouldn't have came up here to talk to you if I wasn't like, oh, Luke's a cool guy. Like I enjoy being around.
No, I get what you're saying.
Like that's an emotional drive to bond with you. It's not logical.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, we definitely can't separate emotions from our being. Like that's clearly like half of the like. Yeah, I mean, you've got your like frontal cortex thinking, and then you've got your amygdala, like your fucking amygdala.
Is like figure out a way to like have a healthy drive that really gives you like a lot of joy, satisfaction, and happiness. You still have shitty days, but overall, like gears you towards that, and keeps you super driven.
Yeah.
Because I find a lot of people get super driven and they lose the joy, they lose the happiness. They feel stressed out, burnt out, just like grinding. You know what I mean? And then they're like fuck, you know, like, are you happy? Well, I'll be happy when I get there.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. And then having this goal, yeah, I guess I just always kind of ignore the emotions. Like in my, I mean, it is there. Like, we are emotionally driven.
Like, you ever found yourself in like emotional state where you were just like, you were at a low energy?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like several weeks.
No, for sure. You just have, But what I do then is the same as what I do when I'm in a good state.
You just kind of go to work.
I just do exactly like here's what I literally have a conversation like, damn, I feel like shit today. I'm still gonna do everything I need to do. Like I have to, like exactly. And then if I don't do, it's basically like I look at it as like I do what I need to do because this is what I need to do. And then like, regardless of how I feel, I have to do that. But it's okay to like feel like I'm just okay with not feeling great all the time. That just makes sense to me.
Right.
Because I'm like, you shouldn't feel great all the time. If you feel great all the time, you're not actually feeling anything. Happiness is a state that describes something away from baseline. Like if you're always happy, you're not happy at all. You're never happy. Like if you're always sad, you're like, it's like based on the baseline. So like happiness is a spike away from the baseline. So it's just like it's normal to me. Like you spike up and down, and sometimes those up and down spikes are they're your mind, your amygdala talking to you. It's telling you like something like maybe you did something that you shouldn't have been doing, or because there are legitimate reasons to be sad, and we shouldn't like dismiss that. Like, and that's what I'm saying. It's like maybe you're sad because you're not doing what you know you should be doing, or you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing. Like maybe that's why you're sad, and you shouldn't focus on like being happy. You should fix what the fuck you're doing. It's like shit. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone's like thinks they should be happy. No, man, you shouldn't always just be like, no, you shouldn't be happy. Like if you're doing things that like, if you're doing the right things, then you should feel like you should get some of that dose of happiness. But if you're doing shit, you're just like going out and fucked up, not that there's anything wrong with those things in like moderation, but if that's like, if you're doing bad things and you feel like shit about it, like, good. Like, you should feel like shit. And you know how you want to get some happiness? Fix that. Fix that shit. And you'll be a little happier. I promise. Like, fix that shit.
I think though, like there's like this big push where like the Gary Vee mindset, like fucking hustle, work your ass off, like grind.
Yeah.
And it's creating a lot of people who are not happy. Like their baseline is going lower than where they were. And
no, that's definitely there.
What I really think is unfortunate is like they're almost like accepting that that's like that has to be that way.
Well, I think that's the mistake they're making is that's not for them. Not everyone's happiness is going to come from the same thing. I think we all are inherently born with different like talents and paths and like ideas and personality types. So like the formula for like a fulfilled life, I think, is just different for each individual. Okay. You need to find what your formula is and pursue that, because like some people are more emotional than others. Is that not a fair like state? I would say so. Like I definitely know people that are colder and people that are more emotional, people that like and we're all emotional and have emotions, but like some people vary on that scale. And if you're more emotional, then you should probably like find a path of fulfillment that takes that into consideration. If you're more socially oriented, find a path of fulfillment that takes that into consideration. Because if you're socially oriented, right, and you're just working at a desk job 9 hours a day, just sitting there not talking to anyone, you're gonna be miserable, man. And you're miserable for a reason. It's not like you should be happy. That's wrong. You should be sad because you're not fulfilling what you were inherently like destined to do, or like what you're.
But what makes the social person feel that social energy? Is it?
I think it's born in,
actual,
man.
Like face recognition of someone smiling back at them, having a conversation with them.
I think.
What is it? Because there's. At the end of the day, we all have the same eyes.
Yeah, but there's definitely introverted and extroverted people, right?
Of course.
So extroverted people gain energy from social interaction, and introverted people lose energy in social interaction. And that's the thing. Like, I think if you're an introverted person, for instance, and you're in a job where you have to constantly be talking to everyone, you're going to be pissed off. You're not going to be happy with that job. So you just like the path to happiness is identifying your talents and your personal like some version of your destiny or what you're meant for, what would like whatever that is, and then pursuing that. And in doing that, first in like pursuing different things, you'll figure out what that path is, and you could use your emotions as a guide to like, are you going in the right direction? You know what I'm saying? Because like the happiness is like what that means to I think what that means, at least what I interpret, when I get a good feeling of happiness, I'm like, I'm having a great day. I'm like, damn, that's awesome. What I'm doing right now, what I did yesterday, what I've been doing the last couple of weeks, whatever I'm doing, that's good. It's making me fulfilled, and it's checking those boxes to the point that I'm getting this drug of happiness, this serotonin release. And I've noticed like, yeah, like I'll see that when I have like an exceptionally good week or something. Like, I look back at the couple of weeks before that, I'm like, what did I do? Well, you worked out every day. You did this, check this box. You know, like I have a list. You checked all the things off your list, like your task list. Of course, good. You should feel happy. And then like the days, like the weeks that I feel like shit, or I'm like in a down spiral, I'll look back and it's like, what did you do? Well, I missed some workouts. I was kind of shit there. I didn't do this thing that I know I should do. I didn't like record this thing, or I didn't go to work and do this, or I didn't check all the tasks I needed to get done. And then I'll feel like I'll feel like a piece of shit about it a little bit. And it's like, I'm not as happy. Well, maybe that's good. That keeps you, it's like the gauge. It's like, yeah, like it tells you when you need to course correct. So if like you're feeling like shit, maybe you're not living up to what you could be. And that's all. Like maybe you should just try and live up to your hero a little more. Like, chase that hero a little more. What would you be doing? Like, yeah, what would the guy you envy be doing right now? Do that. Maybe you'll feel a little happier.
I mean, I see that perspective. I think when you're, at least the way I see it, when you try to architect your life and you set goals and you define values, keeping on that path and deviating from how you emotionally feel each day to kind of move forward along those sort of like guiding lights of the values and the goals, can go against your emotions, because I think a very large percentage of people are largely controlled by their emotions.
For sure.
With how they are in their career, and that is probably why their baseline, I think, can be more like higher in terms of just feeling like kind of chill. Because there's a lot of people out there that are like pretty decently successful working for other companies who have like pretty solid, like are like emotionally very solid. And you see like entrepreneurs get depressed.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And like it's because they're like pushing themselves outside the norm and like going off in the unknown and facing a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I think where I'd love to see some development is in that space of how can I proactively engineer it so that my emotions are on the same page as my logic.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you're definitely an engineer, man. You can tell, like, in just your thinking. You're like looking at this as like, yeah, how do
I don't want my emotions to tell me I'm off the right path because I
but
put
how do
a lot of thought.
well, let me ask you this: how do you know if your path is wrong? How do you know if you're not doing the right thing for your
they
life?
would say like you would listen to your emotions. Unfortunately, though, that's not the case in business. Like
Sometimes, no. What I'm saying is, like, let's say you've decided to start a company, like, and it's, I don't know, let's say you're starting an advertising agency, right?
Yeah.
But what if that's the wrong path for you? Like me, right? Like, let's say I was going to be a doctor. Like I was going to medical, like I was going to do that path, right? How do you know that that's not the right path for you, even though it's logically a great path?
Well, it depends on. I think in my mind, because I think this is again structured depending on how you view things. I think the answer you're looking for is your emotions would tell you. I think in my mind, you would know you're wrong if you had sat down and defined your goals and values and it didn't align with that and your life's mission. And so if you feel like shit, you're becoming a doctor, but it's deeply aligned with your goals and values, then I think there's a bridge between what your unconscious mind, which is still logical, is telling your conscious mind, but they're not communicating. Because if you study a lot of human biology, we basically evolved from reptiles to birds to mammals to humans. And as we did that, our brains became more sophisticated in logic. But what happened was we were equipped with these more logical brains that aren't like everything in our biology is basically designed for fight or flight or freeze, right?
So you think the emotions are just outdated? Like it's outdated, like programming kind of. And
they're valuable and they're great. Like that's what we live for. Like we're all here on this fucking planet to like experience great emotions in the range.
Yeah.
Like if we didn't have emotions, we'd probably all kill ourselves. Like honestly, like if you look at people who are like survivors of rape and like incest and like insane like country sort of repressions, like what they have is this condition called alexithymia, and what that means is they can't feel any emotion. Those people are the most quote unquote depressed, like lifeless, like just worthless, don't want to do shit for themselves, hate themselves type people in general. Because like even feeling depressed or shitty is better than feeling nothing. So and you can look at this, like if you look at like trauma survivors and like you look at psychology, we want to feel things. Like
for sure,
we want to feel things no matter what they are. If it's bad emotions, it's better than none.
No, that's fair. Probably.
So, I can't remember.
I think the point you were making, I think, is that like you should identify logically your goals and what your values are, and you should pursue those regardless of the emotional ups and downs.
You're asking like, how do you know? You know, how would you know like when you're on the right path?
How do you know? Yeah, how do you know what goals and values are actually aligned with your being? And when I look at that, I'm like, that's not a logical decision necessarily, because it's like, what are your values? Your values are emotionally held, so maybe they're partly logic, but there is some sort of like what do you value?
Yeah, I think I value like growth.
Okay, why?
Like high growth. Because I really like the idea of like being the best version of who I can be.
But is that logical? Because that's a path that's
logical.
I don't think so, man. Because it's a path of very significant resistance. It's a hard path. It's not the easy path at all. Like that's a painful path you're going to take. Because in order to become more self-developed, you're going to have to realize you're wrong and learn and like develop, and that's hard. So that's the logical thing would be like, no, don't do that. Like that's almost to me that makes more sense. And the reason you care about that is because it's deep in you. Like that's what that's what your programming is. Whatever this consciousness is, whatever your consciousness is.
Well, the logic wouldn't see anything hard or easy, right? It would just see what needs to be done.
No, things are objectively hard or easy though. No. Like that's like logical. Like some things are harder than others. Like the easy path is to just.
But like at the end of the day, like if it's within my physical capabilities, whether or not I design the next iPhone, if I know what to do logically, I'm taking one step at a time that I know what to do versus like just building this table. Yes, like overall, that's a more complicated thing to do. But if I know what to do, I'm literally, all I can do as a human being is use my hands, my eyes, my brain, and like execute the next step along that sequence of steps to execute that task. So no matter what the task is, logically, the playing field is even. It is all emotion, because what happens is when you look at designing the cover of Apple, you're like, fuck, that's scary as fuck. That's emotion talking to you. It's not the logic that's saying that. It's the emotion looking at all the logic.
But some things are logically like harder. Like making a chair is like just okay. Like making a chair.
What's harder?
Here's what I'm saying. No. Making the harder isn't necessarily. There's objective measures of difficulty. Like making a chair. I need 3 pieces of wood, a hammer, a nail. This. Making an iPhone. I need a whole crew of engineers. I need this, plus technology and all. That is more difficult. That is a more difficult task to achieve.
Definitely requires more things.
It's more. I mean, it takes more time, more money, more effort, more thought, more dedication. That's the meaning of difficulty. Like it's a harder task, and that's fine. My point is that's not like pursuing a harder thing isn't the logical path. To me, like pursuing it's very logical to be like, I'm just gonna live in this great thing, just do the bare minimum to exist and just go about it. That's a logical play.
Emotion, right?
It's not an emotional play to me, man. An emotional play,
energy, right?
No, that's the logical play to me, man. The emotional play is like, I'm gonna fucking build a crazy skyscraper because, like, why? Why the fuck do you need that?
That's the emotional play?
That's the emotional play to me. That's like pursuing like human like greatness. Like what is that? What do you call like that
ego,
pursuit
right?
of human? Yeah, what is ego? That's emotional.
So I think of emotions as more like most of our emotion drive is like conservation of energy and survival. That's like 90.
There is some of that.
And then everything else is logic. How do we bridge the gap or
now I see what you're saying now.
So like we can like look at any task that we want to do based on our values that we logically define, our goals that we logically look at.
But are values logical? That's the real question.
The emotions are going to say like, fuck, dude, it's way better for me to stay in bed and play PS4 right now than to like,
right.
Like
your emotions
will
protect you from failure, like from the opportunity to fail.
For huge consequence there, but
that's fair. Like the reason a lot of people won't pursue the difficult thing is because their emotions are going to be like, hey, like what happens when you fuck this up? What happens when you fail? No, that's definitely there. You're right.
They wouldn't do it. I mean, most people aren't going to go out and do a business because most people are followers, not leaders.
Yeah,
and that's good. That's not bad. If everybody was a leader, we'd have a fucked up society, and we wouldn't be able to. And nobody could actually build a business because no one would follow.
Yeah, I mean,
had great ideas.
Yeah.
But
what's so that leader follower thing right there, right? That. So what you're saying, but by that inherently, some people have a leadership quality in them. They have a drive for leadership, right?
I don't know. I've studied a lot. It may be true. I'm not discrediting it. I haven't spent a lot of time studying leadership, and I've spent some, but like.
But clearly, some people, like just in your human experience, are some people better naturally at leading than others?
I would say that's probably the case.
That's probably the case.
I think everyone has like.
So you're born with different talents. Everyone's
no,
of course, for sure. So like, here's what I'm saying. Like, if that leader, that person who's a born, like they have that thing in them that's good, that he's a good leader naturally, right? If that person pursues a path that's like not in line with that inherent like ability, they're going to be unhappy long term. If they like just work some job where they're following orders all day, long term they're going to be unhappy. And they're going to feel emotions. And those emotions shouldn't be discredited. Those emotions should be considered and reflected on. You should be like, hey, maybe I'm taking the wrong path. Maybe I'm not being true to what I was like meant to do. Like maybe this sadness that I'm feeling every day when I come into this fucking bullshit job is because this isn't what I'm meant to do. And you should heed that warning. Because if you ignore that warning long enough, you're going to be 50 and like still doing the same thing that you know you weren't meant to do, and you're going to be miserable. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Like, yeah, emotions are a double-edged sword, man. Like,
I think you should listen to the warning, and then my thinking is that rather than have the warning change your actions externally, try and understand why is this warning happening?
No, for sure,
Because
exactly.
it could be tied to values that are outdated,
Perhaps.
and it could be tied to really bad logic.
For sure.
Doesn't fit today's marketplace for what you're doing. I know for me, example, in affiliate marketing, there was a point of time when I first started to learn it where there was this moral concern around the type of advertising and the deception that can be used in the actual space. And I was I kind of wrestled with it for a while. I'm like, fuck, am I
slinging bullshit worth
dude,
it?
Am I offering value to the world, or am I just
oh, for sure,
pumping
man.
out slime and I thought about it for a while. And I was like, well, fuck, this shirt was probably made in Bangladesh in a child labor factory, and then it was shipped to the U.S. and branded under Nordstrom or James Perse, whatever it is, And I'm like, this watch, it was made in fucking Chinese, everything. So I the baseline immediately went to okay, hold on here, fucking Mr. White Knight. We're in a society here that has to function in a system, and the system is very much capitalism driven.
Well, yeah, you can't have a utopia.
You can't be just stuck here freaking out because you're offending certain people or contributing to some negative thing.
Yeah.
At some point, there is a leverage point in the marketplace where someone isn't going to quite win. And so that's how I rationalized it to me. Once I had that actual conversation with myself, I didn't have to change the action I was doing. I could dive deeper into that action. And now the emotions weren't telling me, oh, this is a bad career path, I should change becoming a doctor. It's oh yeah, the doctor makes sense. Let me go down this path. Now that I've had that conversation.
Isn't that just rationalizing?
I think it's more, I think a lot of people have a lot of old, they have a lot of, you said, you kind of mentioned that maybe almost innately, if I'm not misquoting you, we have an innate sort of okay, everyone's unique.
We'll have tendencies. I wouldn't say it like that.
We have tendencies, right? I think we have more conditions. We've been conditioned
sometimes, but
I think that's more because
for sure there's condition. There is societal things that if you're born in a society that values certain things,
but I
probably value.
I think it's deeper than this. I think it's the conditioning happens in your womb, your mom and the way she's experiencing her life emotionally, and the way that she is going through what's happening in her world affects you at a very deep level in your subconscious. It's not necessarily all the way in your instincts, but I think it gets so deep when you're first being developed.
Curious, yeah.
And this is what you see in babies that grow up in South Chicago. Yes, the environment is fucked up, so that you could rationalize that just going to high school, and that high school made you fucked up. But they were the child of a crackhead who was and it's not even the biology. That woman was abused and probably beat 10 times, and then that emotion was flooded into them. And so
I see what you're saying.
That's sort of that sort of programming.
Yeah.
That happens to that person.
Yeah.
That they don't even know.
Mm-hmm. I just don't think that's the biggest factor, bro.
Biological level.
I get what you're saying. There's definitely some sort of influence on clearly a pregnant woman having trauma in her life while she's pregnant isn't healthy for the child, probably. And there's probably some cortisol responses, some sort of biological responses that happen in the mother that pass on. Clearly a little fetus being flooded with cortisol is probably bad. That, all these stress hormones are bad. But I mean, just back to I think that kind of delves away from the bigger picture stuff, because I think we're actually in agreement on this emotion thing, but we're just looking at it. I do think I'm not saying you should just listen to your emotions left and right. I ignore them all. That, like I said, man, if I feel bad one week, I don't just stop doing what I'm doing. I still do all that, and I just keep pushing through. I'm just saying, big picture, you should look at what your values are and what you're pushing towards, and just don't ignore all your emotions always, because sometimes they are actually telling you something. Sometimes it is that little. It's your brain's subconscious way of your subconscious brain's way of communicating with your rational mind. Hey, maybe this isn't the right path. Not everything is equal. Not all ideas or all paths are equally moral or equally right. That's clearly the case.
And I think that's a very valid point. And I guess what I think now more than I used to is that if you study a lot of the psychology around, again, what I find fascinating about trauma is it has this crazy stigma that you have to be like raped or like in a car accident or like gone to war to experience it. But really what it does is it looks at the brain and the biology of your body and how you store emotion based on the experience you have in your life. And I think there's a lot of science there that we're just now uncovering in the last 4 or 5 years, where we see brain scans of people who have had a traumatic event where it shuts off. It'll shut off their amygdala, or it'll
I got
turn
you.
it. And it's not a logical thing they're doing. Like, they literally can wake up and take a shit and feel traumatic.
I get what you're saying.
Like depression.
Yeah.
And so how could you reverse that formula and basically inflict like positive trauma?
Yeah, you're trying to engineer like emotions.
So like you get like a hard on from pulling up in an economics book. You know what I mean? Like I believe that there's
I'm sure you could, man. I'm very sure you could condition people, but I don't think you could do it in a free will way. I think
you do it. You would have to motivate it.
You're not tricking yourself. It's tough to like trick yourself. You know what I'm saying?
No, but if you understand, because like people can get fucked up at all stages of their life emotionally.
Yeah.
Like you could be traumatized as a child and be all fucked up emotionally going from then on the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You could be a fucking healthy adult and then go to war at age 45 and get blasted by a grenade and then like come back and be all fucked up.
The funny thing with that is, though, you could also go to war, get blasted by a grenade, and not be fucked up.
Not get fucked up.
So the real question is, like, what's the difference there? Like, why do some people feel it and some people don't? Some people have different responses.
If you look at the traumatic research, the difference is how people process the experience.
Is that now? Is that, you think, genetic or like inherent?
Genetic predisposition.
Because they're clearly There's it's a tough to argue.
A lot of it is like built off of their emotional.
Maybe it's their past emotional response. Yeah, how
psychological flexibility.
Yeah, exactly.
If you are on
the tools you have in the kit to deal with these like things.
Exactly, and if you were also, they're finding if you were loved at a very young age, that you have a much broader and deeper range of capacity to handle intense, stressful emotions than if you weren't.
Yeah,
like, there's something there, and I'm not.
I think that comes down to a security thing. Like the healthy child is what you want to do for a child is you want to allow them to explore their fears, because everything is new and a fear to them. But have the security of you being the parent being there, that the parent's going to bail them out. You know, like that's the love, that's the protection of the parent. And if you don't get that as a kid, you end up in this fucked up situation where like you never had the security blanket to be able to go explore dangerous things and know when you can come back. And you know, so you never developed that
you got that island.
Exactly. So you're in this fucking emotional like bubble where you any sort of trauma, like you just haven't had like even small traumas before. You've just been in this like bubble. And it's funny that I see that, and it's funny, this ties back to like, I just think this whole generation, man, it's like we've like made that bubble so like that, like we're trying to stop kids from experiencing any bad emotion ever. We're trying to stop them from having any of these negative experiences. And what that's doing is making them have a non-existent psychological toolkit to actually deal with these. Yeah, they're delicate. And it's like, and I think that's a big difference between the guy who like goes through the traumatic event and just toughs it out, walks out, or like figures it out. You know, it's not like, and then the person who just like ends up, that ruins their whole life. Because I think what it is like, they just, maybe that person probably had experienced, it's like if you go to the gym and you just have a brutal all-out workout for the first time ever, and you just can't recover from that, you get hurt, like whatever, you're just never going to come back. You're never going to be able to do it. Whereas if like every day you did 20 push-ups and a pull-up and like some small thing, by the time the war comes, by the time like the massive like 10-hour workout where you just get destroyed comes, like you're a little bit like that incremental bringing you there is like, you're just a little bit, your brain, it has some tools. It knows what's going, it's not like a shock. So you can just process it and deal with it better. And you like figure something out there. And then, I think that's just huge, man. You can't overprotect people or else they're going to end up being like super fragile.
Well, so like for me, like one of the biggest things I've really tried to work on as a business owner and leader is my fear.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's been my biggest limitation in taking my business where it is to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And last year my business partner left and I had to learn all of our media buying. and just take that over.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like 50-50 partner. Like it was not like a sudden thing, but it was like also very scary because it's like, okay,
You're on your own now.
I'm on my own.
You're on your own.
No one else.
It's different
except for me.
It's weird. It's so funny how like even one person shouldering risk with you is way
That
different.
camaraderie, that feeling that you get.
Yeah.
Like, sort of just like,
We'll tough it out together. Like we'll figure it out. Whereas like when you're on your own, it's like, damn, I'm like, this is all on me. Like this is legitimately because like it also is like neat because you know that like if I fail, it's on me. And that's a weird thing
like
too.
a sacrifice of the ego.
Yeah.
You can't blame your partner.
You definitely like it puts you in a position where you really have to like you have the potential to fail. That's where that fear comes in. That amygdala like emotional response. It's like now there it'd be like, well maybe you shouldn't do it because like like what
So for me, what I found was like when that happens, immediately there's a lot of fear.
Yeah.
It's like fuck.
For sure.
What am I gonna do? What do I gotta learn?
Yeah.
How do I take this over? Once I got over that hump, it was like, okay, you sort of build like this confidence.
Yeah, you got to control that fear. You got to understand that fear. Why am I scared? And then logically plan out like the reasons and like figure out.
If I listen to that fear, I probably would go back to corporate world.
No, for sure.
And like,
but
that's one of those things.
Maybe,
right?
yeah, maybe you shouldn't
like,
listen to the fear necessarily outright, but you should consider it. You should analyze that fear.
Like, why is this
why?
fear?
Why am I feeling this fear?
Is there something I need to attack to get
Exactly.
rid of this fear?
Like, why am I feeling this fear? And then, like, what's a logical approach to eliminate this fear or to like move past this fear?
Yeah.
I think that's the approach you should take with these emotions. Like, I don't think you should just dismiss them outright because they are meaning something.
But sometimes you can get chronic fear, and well, in my experience, you can get consistent fear, and it's because there's something in your head that you're not quite aware of consciously.
Yeah.
It's in your unconscious.
Yeah.
So like it's a blind spot you have.
Yeah,
schema,
some sort of subconscious.
and it's a fear, but it doesn't make sense. It's like a fear that you had because your mommy was telling you to live life this way.
I see what you're saying. Some deep ingrained fear. Yeah, for sure.
And those are the kind of fears that I think a lot of people have in today's society that are built in their biology that prevent them from doing amazing things in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think those are like, maybe they're tied to biology because psychology and biology are super like, it's a weird one, man. We want to separate them, but like what we know now is basically that we know very little. Like they're clearly tied. Neurotransmitters are biological, but they're clearly psychological, and there's like this weird interplay.
Take the gut. There's more nerves in your human gut.
I've heard that.
Than there are in an entire cat brain. There's more nerves in a human gut than an entire cat brain. So your gut is almost like because like, when
I've heard about the gut being like super tied.
Feeling,
Yeah.
When you have a gut feeling, it's actually what's called neuroception. So like your eyes see before your conscious mind registers what your eyes see.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that goes through your cranial nerve in your eyes to your spinal column, to your amygdala. Yeah. And it feeds in your gut. Yeah. It's like you actually can shake your hands. It's really interesting.
You're exactly, dude. Your emotional responses are like right away. Your logical responses, they take like reason.
Another
like, they're
second
slow.
to kind of bounce back.
Yeah, it takes a second.
Settle.
And not even that, you even have to talk yourself through it. Even like when you like let's say something happened right now, and you have this emotional response. To get to the logical part of it takes more than just like a second. You even have to decipher through the logic a little bit. You have to like think it out because your initial logic could be wrong. It's like it could be skewed by you really got to like think the fear is like right away. The like emotions, they hit you quick, man. You just know. Yeah. And it's so weird too. You feel that I was what was it like the public speaking one or something, or a real interesting one is have you ever done like some sort of heights thing? Like so we did this thing in Canada. We were in Toronto, in Santa. We did the CN Tower tour, right? Okay. The weirdest response, man. I was so fascinated by it because literally, like, I wasn't scared of heights. I logically knew everything was fine.
But as soon as you got to the edge,
the minute you step out there, you can't control it, man. It's like everything. Hands are sweating. Like the reaction is so gut and it's so illogical. It's not based on anything. Like you can't talk yourself out of it. It's just like boom. Like boom, like something clicks and it's like sends out adrenal hormones, like go. This is a bad idea. Yeah. It's so weird. And you're right. Those gut level emotional responses are so fascinating and they're so tied to neurochemistry.
So I think those are deeply programmed at a very young age. Some of them are instinctual.
Some of them are instinct.
Like survival.
Like some of falling off the building, that's clearly instinct. Everyone just gets that.
We didn't have buildings 4,000
No, but we
years
had
ago when
cliffs.
were biology.
We had heights.
We had heights.
We had like height.
So you look at this distance,
Yeah.
and if you see a proximity to an edge for a far distance, then maybe that's the
So
the
they've done this with children actually. So children will do that too. It's the open. It's I forgot the exact name of it, but this is like a super founded experiment. If children can recognize a dip and they won't go to it.
yeah.
Yeah. So like if you put like toddlers playing in a room and you create some artificial dip and you put glass over it.
Yeah.
So and children go up to it. They go up to the dip. They see down. They won't go.
How do you? So my like I think the billion dollar question is how do you change that biology in a healthy way?
I don't know. That's a good fucking question.
That's
Like, how do we change our
would be-
innate emotional? I don't know.
That
I don't
would
know
be
that.
like if you because like you see these sciences coming out like neurofeedback.
Yeah.
And they plug you up and they look at your brain waves
Uh-huh.
and then they actually send back. And actually, there's a huge thing out there right now with autism. So autism is really closely linked to trauma, and the reason it is because autism is essentially when the brain isn't fully developed, and the last part of your brain development is your nervous system. And your nervous system, because your heart beats before anything else, and your heart is actually fully
That's
developed.
pretty quick,
before
like
your
8 weeks,
brain.
I think, or something.
Your heart comes into existence before your brain.
No,
your
for sure.
gut.
Yeah.
And so, like, you're this fucking like gut with like a brain with a heart before you have an intelligent brain on you.
No, for sure. Yeah.
And so what they found though is they can use neurofeedback for autistic children, and it calms their nervous system down to a level where they're normal. And for hours, they can plug them into the system, have them listen to the shit where it like almost like it tunes their inner ears, and it like puts their nervous system back to like baseline. And then after that, they can talk, they can walk, they can function like a normal child. And so there's a lot of this cool shit coming out there.
I guess the question with autism would be: is it biological, like, or is it?
It's a biological.
Because I mean, yeah, that's what I would say too. But like the counter thing, the other possibility is it's psychological, like to some degree.
Well, the biology was underdeveloped, so the nervous system.
That's so. Can you ever develop that? Really, it's like think about this. That's like if someone is born and in the womb they just their brain didn't fully develop. Like you can't create that's it. Like when you're born, you're kind of born.
Yeah, but then you see people like that had a great nervous system that it got knocked offline because they had a traumatic experience.
No, I get that, but like I see it as like computer, right? Like if it's like computer hardware. Like if you like we're all like imagine we're all born as like we're all like computers, right?
Yeah.
Some people just don't have the RAM. Like some people have different processors. Right. Some people have like maybe there's a faulty chip in there.
Yeah, they may never.
And then you're just never gonna have you're just exactly. So it's like that's just not gonna happen. Like you can do all the interventions you want. It's just there's the.
But for the people that
there's the subgroup that have it.
Hardware, which is I think the vast majority.
Yeah, I think we can fix a lot of program issues. Like a program, like I see, like hardware is what it is, and then the programming is our psychological experiences, our trauma, all that shit.
Yeah, we're not optimizing all of our capacity.
If you can fix programming problems, I think. Like I think if someone had a big trauma as a kid, that could really affect them. Like even as a baby, like whatever, those things can affect you on a deep level, and we could potentially fix that.
That same type of technology to empower entrepreneurs to face their fears.
I see what you're saying.
They have fear around doing shit they've never done before because they've never done it before.
Yeah, no, you can.
And like, okay, they have the same fucking body as you and the same brain and the same.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
You've got conditions because you've experienced it, so you can give a tolerance.
Yeah, that's psychological. Yeah, I don't know.
So how do we hack that tolerance?
How do you hack your own psychology, man?
On the emotional side.
Yeah, that's a curious question for sure. That's definitely something that's growing. Yeah, no, that's definitely $1 million question, man.
That's
how do you
really where I spend a lot of my time.
How do you hack your psychology and like optimize your own like internal psychology to like achieve what you want?
That's like the key to everything.
Oh, it is. The mind is clearly like
one. It gives you happiness. It drives your baseline state up higher. It gives you courage.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't avoid things that scare you. You shouldn't. But if you wake up fucking stressed out every day, and you weren't that way at a period of your life, and it's a condition of things you're doing to move towards what you believe deeply is what you want.
Yeah. So if you think you're doing the right things, you've thought this through, like you've looked at I'm doing all the right things, but for some reason I'm still feeling this like weird
emotions of fear. Like,
and then at that point maybe it is like what's the deep? There's some room for psychological intervention, I'd say for sure, and those could be like that could be huge. I think getting people to like. Yeah, I mean, just like confidence,
don't go to therapy because you're fucked up. Go to therapy to get amazing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. I think a lot of people are thinking that now, though, too. It's like we're seeing it all over the podcast and YouTube, and it's like people are really pushing this self-development, I think, in bigger numbers than ever before just because of how much we can communicate. Like, we're pursuing this. Like, so a lot of, and I've noticed it. Like, a lot of people that I like meet and that I like click with, it's like, yeah, we're thinking about the same shit. How can I be better at everything I'm doing, basically? How do I just optimize all this shit? Yeah. That's the goal. It's
I
like,
want to fuck better, run faster.
No, that's what I've been thinking about since I was like, since I was like 14. I was like, all right, how do I like get better at all this shit? Because clearly you can. If you can get better at stuff, well, if there's things, it's like all games to me. I'm like, all right, well, I just need to like learn the formula for each game, and I can just do that. Like, and that's something that's growing, I think, with like a lot of people. It makes sense. It's like it's some good shit, man. Self-development has like, it's definitely the greatest time to have ever been alive in terms of self-development and what you could potentially improve in your own life.
It is, and at the same time, on that same point, it's like it's also very dangerous because now people are constantly in this state of striving.
Exactly, you know what you're not.
Their state.
Exactly.
And and they have all this exposure to everyone else.
Yeah. Well,
but that's only showing them like the best version of everyone else.
But that's the thing for striving for anything. The bad part about striving for anything is you have the opportunity to not make that goal, and then you're a failure in terms of that goal. You know what I'm saying? So it's obviously like, I think it's a easier life, and it might even be more fulfilled if you never know about anything. You know, like if you just live this like controlled existence, you might be more fulfilled. Like it's entirely possible that ignorance is just bliss. And trying to achieve anything great or do anything great that's like worth doing, you're putting yourself up, or you're opening yourself up to the possibility of failure, which would crush you. But
like my life is substantially, by all measures, better than it was 5 years ago. But my emotional state is lower. My baseline is lower.
I get what you're saying.
And that's something that I've really been fascinated with over the last couple of years, because I didn't really pay attention to it, but I slowly saw myself kind of drifting to it, almost like a driver.
You can't mentality. Be sad about what you don't know. You can't be sad about what you haven't seen, or like what's not a possibility or a reality. Just if you set the bar super low, it's way easier to meet that bar. And it's way easier not to be disappointed.
Yeah.
But in doing that, you're also robbing.
Is here, but you never see it. Like you're going to be living a good life until it comes right.
But you're also robbing yourself in doing that of the possibility to feel that really big up.
Yeah.
Because there's like, really, to me, man, there's like when you achieve something that you've set out to do, that's a high that is like tough to replicate, man. Like that's a real like up that you just, it's so tough to like, and then you're constantly chasing that, which I think may be a good thing. It comes with its potential downside, but it is like in and of itself a pretty good thing. Damn, dog, we dealt pretty deep, huh?
Yeah, dude. Hour and 42 minutes.
Oh, really?
I got a.
Oh shit, you got your class.
Yeah, I'm taking a transcendental meditation class. So.
Oh, nice. Get that emotional state right.
I just want to get the baseline. Yeah.
Nice.
Have you read much about TM?
No, not too much.
So there's a book called Strength and Stillness by Bob Goff. Highly recommend it because Ray Dalio, Katy Perry.
Oh, really?
Russell Brand.
Dude, I like Ray Dalio, bro. I'm a big fan of Dalio,
Ray
man.
Ray Dalio is a transcendental meditation practitioner.
Anyone who's listening, pick up Ray Dalio books and pick up this.
Bob Goff wrote the book Strength and Stillness, and he actually trained Ray Dalio on transcendental meditation. Ray Dalio credits TM to his creativity and a large portion of success at Bridgewater. So I signed up for the class. It's like almost $1,000 for this freaking class, but you basically get a mantra. You go through this process. It's the next 4 days. It's an hour. I'm going to be going up to this guy's house. He's like a certified instructor.
Oh, really?
The whole thing, and like he trains you one-on-one. So
how much does it cost?
I think I paid $930.
How much?
$930.
$930?
Yeah.
Damn, dog.
Yeah,
that's an investment, bro. Let me know how that works out. Maybe I'll consider it.
But if you're a student, it's like $400 or $350.
Of course, I'm a student.
Yeah, go get a diploma.
little student ID.
But yeah, I'm gonna go to that class, and then there's 3 follow-ups. Today's the one-on-one to learn the whole process. Nice. And I'll film my experience.
Nice.
I'm not gonna really.
You gonna film it?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna really try to teach people because I've never fucking done it.
No, yeah.
But I shot a video on my Facebook today, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go do this. This is why I'm doing it, and yeah.
Yeah, I like it, man. All right. Well, yeah. I guess we can wrap it up. Huh?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Once again, Kurt, how can the people reach you on the social media? How can they follow?
Actually, if you're a podcaster, I have the Kurt Yazici Show. So you probably have to spell my name out, but Kurt Yazici Show. I have another show I did with my old buddy in Seattle called the Lucas and Kurt Show. He's an agent, and he's also a client of mine. We do a lot of real estate marketing. KurtYazici.com. That's the best way to find me. Just go there.
Spell that out.
Website. KurtYazici.com.
Nice.
And
yeah, check it out. All right, this is Luke's Learning Dojo.
Love it.
See you later.